And we welcome you back to the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty, Boise. Chris, remind folks again how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, I like to tell people, people always ask and say, you seem like you're really busy, but I'm never too busy to field calls. You can call me directly on my cell phone, 514-5003, or you can email us at contactus@clgeagle.com, and Annette's always available as well.
Our next guest, Peter Oliver of Thornton Oliver Keller. I always say Kevin Bacon talks about the 7 degrees of separation. If you know this guy, you know everybody. That's just
Exactly.
that's the way it is. You go, I know Peter. Okay, he's tied to Kevin Bacon somehow. How did you and Peter meet up?
A good friend of mine just happened I started growing my business in real estate, and Peter's name kept popping up as kind of the go-to guy for commercial, and I just said, he'd be a great guy for me to know business-wise. In the community, he's really tied into the community, and I have such young kids, and I know that Peter really does a lot of stuff for not just his family and his kids, but he does a lot of stuff for the youth around Boise, and he just ended up, we kind of connected. We went to lunch a couple times, and I've really enjoyed the time that I spent with him.
Yeah, and Peter, I know you've always told me, and I use the line that Chichi Rodriguez says, what I do with my golf club, it's good for my pocketbook, but what I do for kids, it's good for my soul. You've always said, yeah, I love the real estate business, I love the commercial business, but we're here for a different reason. It's to help people. And I always say, follow that philosophy of Peter Oliver. Why is it you're so involved in the community and you really like truly helping people?
My business is just all based on relationships, and that's what I thrive on. I'm very fortunate that what I do allows me to deal with people all day long, lots of different situations. But again, I thrive on that, and I'm a big believer in giving back. And Boise, I've been here 20 years, end of July, and it's just been a phenomenal place for me and my family. We've had all our kids here, and I just feel it's part of your duty. That's what makes the community. And if we all sit back and wait for someone else to do it, it ain't going to happen. So that's how I've always lived.
Yeah, I remember reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm so excited. I'm going back to my old company." And all I could think of at the time, I go, "Well, the middle name's Oliver. That's your." So share with our listeners kind of how your vision way back, first time around with TOK as one of the founders, and then coming back again.
Well, I grew up in a small town in New Mexico, went to school in San Diego, which was, just an overdose of population and culture for me. And so my dream was always to get back to the mountains, quite frankly. And Boise, even at that time, was big enough to do what I had learned to do. And I know people get tired of hearing about it, but even then, the quality of life was astounding to me. And so I had the opportunity with Tim Thornton. We teamed up and started at that time Thornton Oliver. Tim had been here the year previous, and then later Mike Keller joined us. So that's how Thornton Oliver Keller came about. And really the vision of it was just to provide the level of service that all three of us had been trained in. We all trained under the same company at different times, and we were able to come together, bring our talents, and fun is always at the top of our list as well.
All right, so then we asked, kind of like Jay Leno of The Tonight Show, you came back. And I remember saying to you, "Hey, I've heard commercial real. What are you doing?" You said, "Dave, this is a great opportunity for me because not only what TOK does, but the commercial real estate. What's going on with that?"
Yeah, and that was my dream really out of college was to go into development, and I had an opportunity to do that in 2004, and I did it. I'm a big believer in chasing your dreams and fulfilling those. Unfortunately, with the correction that has occurred, the development opportunities in the commercial side were looking pretty thin for the next few years. And I also went through a lot of personal growth during that period, finding out really what I'm really good at, what my strengths are, what I'm passionate about. And those usually, if they're aligned, that's what you love to do day in and day out. So that's really what tied in with my transition back to my old company. It's been great. It's been a great recharge time for me. I've been back a year ago, May. So just back on the bike and running hard.
So, Chris, how do you, I'm talking about from your aspect as residential, I know you're keeping an eye on commercial all the time. What are some things that you and Peter talk about or you look at, kind of using those? I mean, I know you talked about Big Al's, a lot of the commercial real estate that's going on now, but what are some of the indicators you look at?
Well, I look at, for me and for the residential side of things, and it's been, I've been blessed to have, a great career over the last 5 years, and I've had record years every year, and we work hard at it. But I try to look at kind of look at the homeowners and I look at their attitude and I look at what's going on with that. And I think that's where, Peter can attest to this, but I think the commercial side follows that. We're seeing a lot more money. We're seeing a lot more money being spent. I'm seeing a lot more people out and about doing things. And 2 years ago, we didn't see that. And so I think a lot of these businesses kind of suffered. A lot of them closed down. But I think there's a nice shift going on. And Peter, you can kind of attest to this and talk about it because I get questions all the time asked to me. And they said, why are, people say, hey, there's no jobs in Boise. And you're here to say, there are. It's just kind of a shift of what's going on with those jobs and with the companies that are coming to town here.
Yeah, so the way I describe it is Boise's reinventing itself. And for years, when I moved here, Boise had what I call the stalwart cornerstone companies, the Albertsons, the Boise Cascades, and on. And they employed a ton of people, and they created spin-offs and everything. Well, that whole landscape has changed. The cheese has been, blown up. It hasn't been moved. It's been blown up. And so what's happening in Boise now is we're having growth and the jobs are coming from the small to mid-sized companies, plain and simple.
Right.
And it's a very, very painful transition to go from being dependent on these big companies to where we're headed. In the long run, it's going to be actually much better because we're going to have a much diverse group. So that's really what's happening. There are people hiring. There is growth. It's just that they don't make the big headlines. It's very simple. But if you really dig in the trenches and you get to know these folks that I work with every day who are expanding, who are absorbing the space, that's what the driver is. And the jobs, therefore, will lead to home buyers, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think so too, Pete. And you talk about, we talk about that shift and what's going on with that. And I think that you're exactly right when you start talking about, hey, if all we have is, Albertsons or all we have is HP, and we lose a couple of those companies, it's just like if Boeing left Seattle. You'd have a serious crisis in Seattle if something like that happened. But when he talks about the diversification across the board, I think it's a great thing. So you're seeing more medium to small companies, bringing 10, 15, 25 people in together, which I think is a great thing. But, we talk to people all the time. People are moving here. And like Pete said, the quality of life is so good. And on top of that, we have a lot of baby boomers. We have a lot of people moving. They're following their kids here. So, overall, I think when you talk about Boise in general, and I think, my feeling is with all of this, new commercial that's going on, I believe these companies are looking and going, where's the money flowing? Where are people going to be moving to? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And we're in an interesting spot now. A commercial does typically follow residential. And the reason that you're seeing a lot of this, retail, boom going on, Eagle Road, et cetera, these folks spend a lot of money and a lot of time doing demographic research. And they'll gamble a little bit, but these guys have done their homework. And so we're now getting, as I described to you earlier, the next tranche of retailers coming in, new names that we haven't heard of.
Right.
But they've done their homework, and they feel comfortable that Boise has hit a certain threshold, a certain size, to where they can come in and put a stake in the ground.
Sure.
But one thing you do need to note, too, is that a lot of the construction going on, aside from some of the shop space, et cetera, on Eagle Road, most of it is owner-user driven.
Right.
Be it Whole Foods, even the new building going up downtown, that at groundbreaking, that thing was 60% committed. So we haven't even really started to see what we would call traditional commercial construction yet, which is more on the spec side. And that's yet to come. Our unemployment now is at like 7.7%. I'd venture to say that almost 2 points of that is still tied in with the construction industry that got wiped out.
Sure.
So I think as we continue to move along, as long as we continue to make progress, we're headed in the right direction. We're going to find ourselves at 5% unemployment.
Right.
relatively quick.
And that's exactly what I kind of feel the same way, Dave, as we start looking at that number. And that number is kind of just chopped a little bit, little by little. And nothing's going to happen overnight, especially what's happened with, like you said, the big blow up. But, you know, something also when you touch on, when we're talking about, and I know it's a big concern with people, and I know you probably look at the plans and you get to see what's going on out there. But, you know, what a great job they did over by Paramount. And I know you were involved in that. But if you look at what they did over on Linder and Chinden and how they expanded it and the traffic's getting better, it's never going to be fantastic because they could never have guessed the growth, you know, that happened, especially down Eagle Road. But for the most part, what's your feeling? I get it all the time. People ask about Eagle Road, you know, all the whole project that's going on, and people say, well, what's going to happen when all these places fill in with all these retail shops and restaurants and everything else? I mean, what's your feeling on that?
What's going to happen? Well, that's where everybody's going to go. and it's, you know, the key is you look at Eagle Road, you've got Sensi coming in, you've got the retail. I mean, it's really a good thing.
I agree.
opinion. With the, you got the new Julius Kleiner Park. If you haven't been there, that's mind blowing. And the fact that this family was so generous to give that to Meridian is amazing. We're so blessed here, and so Boise is still a small place, so things get done in pieces.
Sure.
But overall, the quilt of Eagle Road is starting to look pretty good.
Yeah, no, and I agree too. And I think that's a lot of the aesthetics of living here. And you start talking about people when they do visit, the people we watch, they come and we give them tours around the area, and you take them and show them around, and they really starts to open their eyes when you start looking about the green belt that we have and all the other things that are kind of that Boise is doing to try to make it a better place to live for people. And I think overall, I think the growth is fantastic. And the more people move in here, a lot of people that are old school Boise don't like it that much, but you know what? The more people that are inflexing cash into our society, in the system, the better for me.
You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group. That's at Keller Williams Realty of Boise. Our guest today is Peter Oliver of Thornton Oliver Keller. Easy for me to say. Another good guy you work with, Mike Ballantyne. Just what a fabulous team at TOK. And Peter, we're just excited that you're, of course, I live in Paramount with Brighton, and they're still doing great things, but I miss you over there because now I don't have anybody to complain to like I used to. But Peter's just what an honor to have you on. We'd asked you about Eagle Road. So, is 10 Mile the next Eagle Road, or does anybody have any idea what it is, or what would your educated guess be?
Well, I do think that 10 Mile is the next focus point. There's no question, and it's been planned out well. The new interchange is great. It had a lot of forethought put into it, which it's a great compliment to the city Meridian as well as the public. There was a lot of participation there. Again, it's just a matter of time. Eagle Road is nearing fill-in at this point, and 10 Mile is the next logical spot, and then you're going to see the gap close between Garrity and 10 Mile. And so that's where the next big push is going to be, without a question. And I think that the cities are working together. They're doing a good job planning, because you've got to accommodate employment, you've got to accommodate the services, and you've got to accommodate the residential. And I think there's a great opportunity there to really think through and master plan what I would call the quilt, between those two roads.
We're working on the quilt today. TOKcommercial.com is the website, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to their office at 947-0816, 947-0816. We'll continue on. Great insight from Peter Oliver here on this Saturday. It's the last Saturday of the month. It is the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris